Oh, what's this I see behind me? Practice Makes Perfect by Kusala. Reverend Kusala is going to be here to speak to us. I asked him before how I should introduce him, and he said after 20, I don't have the numbers memorized, sorry, but it's like 20 years of community service, 20 years of ordination. One of those was a 25. He's here to speak to us, and I personally always enjoy listening to him. He's going to surprise us because he always does. And so it is my pleasure and privilege to call him up from wherever he's hiding. Oh, there he is.
Well, it's nice to be here today. It's been a while since I was last here. A lot of water under the bridge. I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and a little bit lazier. But that's sort of how life works, I guess. So practice makes perfect. Can we practice any place in our everyday life? Or do we need to go to the temple or the church or the mosque or the meditation center to practice and then live our life outside of that? And in Buddhism, it's a bit different because all we do is practice. Everything we do in our life can be a practice. And the practice is designed to get us into performance. Now, the thing about performance is you don't have to practice. It just happens all by itself. And when I started to play harmonica, it took me 2 years of practice to finally get that one moment of performance. And it was wonderful because I wasn't even there. It just sort of worked by itself. So people ask me now, how often do you practice? And I say, no, how often do I perform? Usually only when I'm invited to. Otherwise, they just walk away. So, how would a Buddhist practice? What would be the idea of practice for a Buddhist? Is there a beginning, middle, and end to our practice? And the answer is yes, there is. It starts with the 5 precepts. Now, if you're not familiar with the 5 precepts, let me give you a brief explanation of them, because this is what we practice every day as a Buddhist. The first precept is, I will practice not to take life. Okay, now I'm not saying I'm going to succeed, because sometimes those mosquitoes land on me, and I think to myself, well, maybe it's better if they weren't there. And how can I rid myself of them? And sometimes the only way you can do that is just to take their little life and wish them a good rebirth. So I encourage people to start big. Get up tomorrow morning and say to yourself, today I'm not taking anybody out. And walk out that door with confidence that you can make it through the whole day without doing that. Then when you get good at not killing humans, then it's lions and tigers and bears. Oh my is right. And I live in downtown Los Angeles, so that's pretty easy to do. Now we come to the hard part. Spiders, cockroaches, ants, flies. How do you not kill them? You know, we had a little daddy long legs in our hallway, and it had fashioned some kind of spider web to catch all the little flies and flying things. And I watched it and I watched it, and no little flying things ever flew into the spider web. I was feeling a little sad for the spider. So one day I found a dead fly. and I just tossed it into the spider web. And the spider got a little bigger just from that one fly. So I waited another week, nothing, another fly. It got a little bigger. I said to myself, I can't be feeding spiders. I got too much to do. So I got this container, I caught the spider, I took it out to the garden. I said, spider, you're gonna have a good time out here. There's plenty of flying things. And now that's one less animal, insect, for me to feed. I have 8 to 10 cats that I feed every day. Yes, thank you. And sometimes even more, depending on what we're serving for dinner. They seem to know. But it's a wonderful way to not kill and encourage life. Number 2, the precept not to take what is not given, which is even more difficult than stealing. Because stealing, it's not being given, but you took it anyway. But not using the ketchup on the table at a restaurant because it wasn't offered to you. That's what this means. So you have to stop the waitress and say, is it okay for me to use the ketchup? And then she looks at you like you're absolutely nuts, but you're following the precept to the letter. It wasn't offered, I can't use it, I'd like to use it, can I ask permission to use it? I did. She said, of course. I used it. Number 3, no sexual misconduct. Now you might think this is really easy, but in LA, everything is okay. So I said to myself, well, what is sexual misconduct for a Buddhist? Is it easy to follow? Can I not break that? And I found this wonderful book by Bhikshu Bodhi called The Noble Eightfold Path. And he talks about it very skillfully. He said there are 4 things as a Buddhist you shouldn't do sexually because it causes suffering. And the idea for a Buddhist is not to cause suffering, but to reduce suffering. So number 1, you don't want to have sex with people that are married because they're in a committed relationship and that's good for them and you don't want to upset the apple cart. Number 2, not to have sex with people who are engaged because they're going to be married. And you don't want to cause any suffering and break anything up. Number 3, not to have sex with children being supported by their parents because they're being supported by their parents. And number 4, not to have sex with people against their will. Well, that sounds pretty easy. Those 4 things make perfect sense, and it seems like everybody could live by them, and we could all live in harmony. And then you watch one episode of TMZ, and you realize not everybody can live by those 4 ideals. Number 4, speak skillfully. No harsh speech, malicious speech, gossip, idle chatter, false speech. You want to speak skillfully, and if you can't speak skillfully, you don't want to say anything at all. Noble silence. And speech is difficult because sometimes it doesn't feel like the mind is connected to the mouth because you speak without thinking, and for the rest of your life you try to make up for that subtle indiscretion that came out of your mouth. So I always say please and thank you. That's skillful speech. I always wait my turn to speak, well, most of the time. And I try to be aware of how I'm saying it as well as what I'm saying. Is the tone, the inflection, is it comforting? Or am I causing people to feel uncomfortable because of how I say things? And number 5, this is the hardest precept of all for every Buddhist to keep. Number 5 is, I will not consume intoxicants. Man, you would think having clarity of mind, you would think that would be the best gift you could give yourself. But no. You know, they made marijuana legal. Come on. In my neighborhood, we got like 5 marijuana dispensaries. and they're always busy. I have to admit, people are talking less in my neighborhood and eating more. But that sort of goes with the territory. But can we understand why clarity is such an important thing? And as a Buddhist, we meditate sometimes for days and weeks on end to try to clean out the mind, reset the mind, have a purification of sorts. And then a case of beer, you're just as dumb as you ever were, you know? And if you have a master's degree from UCLA, 2 cases of beer wipes that out. So we want to be able to see the world as best we can. We want to be in control. We want to be able to do good and not do bad because we're inebriated. So that's where it starts, these 5 precepts. And you can do that every day, and you should do it every day, each one. And if those 5 are just too complicated, pick one and do that today. And see how that works. See how you feel. See if the world is a little better because you didn't kill anything or steal anything or have unskillful sex or say anything or got high. Just see if it's better. Okay. Number 2. We can do this every day. Meditation. In Buddhism, we have 40 kinds of meditation. And then there's another 4 kinds of mindfulness. And you got 44 different ways of interacting and cultivating your mind. I'm picking 2 today. Number 1, loving kindness. Man, this is so important. And I don't like the word love. It always makes me feel uncomfortable. I like the word like. Because love, to me, has a little bit of lust connected to it. And sometimes it's all lust, and it's masquerading as love. And so in Buddhism we have loving kindness. Kindness is always connected to love, because kindness is the best way to express your love. And if you're not kind to the person you love, you don't love them. So loving kindness, how do I do that? Every morning when I wake up, every night before I go to sleep, I do a loving kindness reflection. And it goes like this: may I be. See, I always start with me. If I can't love like me, I can't love like you. So then there's a lot of times, the older I get, it's getting harder to love me. Because I think back to all the dumb things I've done my whole life. I'm going to be 70 next year. And I'm thinking to myself, yes, I'm still here. I think I had 70 years to be a jerk. And now it's all coming back. Usually at 3 o'clock in the morning. Why did I do that 10 years ago? What was I thinking? Well, I did as much good thinking as I could 10 years ago, but it wasn't enough. Sometimes you just need wisdom and age working on you at the same time, though I have to admit, sometimes age happens without wisdom. So I'm going to love myself. Just because I've been a jerk for 70 years, I'm going to love myself. I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to try to be better at 71 than I was the previous 70 years. May I be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always find fulfillment. May I also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. And I just let that sort of settle in, and then I start adding people and things. May my parents, my pets, be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. Then I go, may my brothers and sisters, friends and relatives, may they too be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. And then I add, may all the people I don't know and all the people I don't like. May they too be happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. And you know what? That is such a profound category, because I don't know 70 billion people. You know, I've met maybe a couple hundred, couple thousand in my lifetime. 70 billion people I don't know. And I want them to be happy too. I want them to be free from suffering as well. And then the people I don't like. You know, the reason I don't like them is because of me, not because of them. I see something in them that reminds me of me, and I don't like it. And I can't take the me out of them. So I got to accept them. I got to accept me. I just got to go and say, okay, yeah, they're okay. I forgive you for being like me. And then you start working with all the forms and non-forms, all the creatures with consciousness and not consciousness, all the creatures with personality and no personality, all the things that are out there other than the obvious animals and insects on Earth. I want them to be happy too. I want them to be peaceful. I want them to be free from suffering. So you say that in the morning, and then you go out the door, and you're ready now. You prepared yourself to love and be kind to everyone. And then you get on the 405, and you realize the 101 off-ramp is closed, and you're going to be late. So you start cursing the city and the workers repairing the freeway. And all those people in front of you and back of you who are honking now. And you just sort of go, I love them. I love everybody. I'm so happy I'm on this freeway because I get to practice my loving kindness in this terrible situation I find myself in. It'll make me a better person. I'll be better because of this traffic jam. And then you finally get to your destination, and you're the same guy. You're not any better for it. You just lost a half hour of your life. But that's the practice. That's how you do it. Now, the other kind of meditation which you can do every day is mindfulness, and it's mindfulness on body postures. Because our bodies have different postures we find ourselves in. So we have standing, we have walking, we have sitting, and we have lying down. Those are the four that we work on. So what you want to do throughout your day is see which one of those postures you're doing now. Right now, a lot of sitting posture is going on. And you know, you would think sitting would be really good. It wouldn't be harmful at all. You think it would feel good to rest that tired body of yours in a chair. But after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, your legs start to fall asleep. Your back starts to hurt. You got to go to the bathroom. It's just, man, I can't even sit down for a half hour without moving around, crossing my legs, uncrossing them. The body always seems to be uncomfortable if it's kept in the same position too long. Same with standing. You would think standing would be easy, but have you ever stood in line for 20 minutes, 30 minutes? Have you ever gone to a busy grocery store and the line is there? And you know what amazes me about lines in grocery stores is how many people travel together to get a carton of milk. I mean, I'm solo. You know, I go in, I got my Hostess cupcakes and my chocolate milk, and I'm ready for the checkout line. And I look ahead of me, and there's a family there, 3 generations. They're all shopping together for a couple items. The line is 43 people long. I'm thinking, come on. This isn't Disneyland, this is Vons. Why do you all shop together? You know, and they do, so I try to help them, you know, get your cart straight, come on, put the food on the conveyor belt, let's not talk, don't answer the phone, we got things to do. We gotta buy our food. And then I gave up being the line policeman because everybody resented me for saying things. So now I just look at the line and go, oh my gosh, you know, isn't it fun to live in a city of 7 million people, you know? You got the freeway, you got the lines at Vaughn's, plenty of times to practice every day. And then you have walking meditation. And walking meditation is really sort of interesting because you're sort of lifting your foot and moving, and it's like standing except you're moving, you know? And the way we move becomes sort of interesting. Because after 50 or 60 years on this earth and all the movement we have done, we tend not to be graceful. I don't know if you've ever done a cross-country car trip, but you stop off to use the restroom and you watch people get out of their cars. And you're just amazed that they're able to even get to the bathroom because they're like this, you know, and you can just tell they've been sitting for 3 or 4 hours. Then their muscles forgot what to do next, you know? And there they are. So walking is not as easy as I thought it was. I was taught how to walk by my parents, thankfully. And then I walked really good for 20 or 30 years, and now it's a little iffy, you know? Sometimes you're not quite sure if that next step is the right one. And yet you do it anyway because you got places to go, people to see, things to do. So you got to walk. So being aware of your walking brings you into this wonderful present moment. This is what it means to be a human being. We stand, we sit, we walk, and we lie down. Now, lying down is one of my favorite postures, but I find myself going to sleep a lot. You know, in the afternoon is the best time to take a nap. And if I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, posting on my Facebook page, around 10:30, I'm ready for my first nap. And then I get up and I have lunch, you know, feed the cats, and then it's time for a little nap in the afternoon. And then around 5 or 6 o'clock, it's time for another nap so I can stay awake till 9. And you just sort of nap and awake and stand and sit and lie down. But one of the things I found out about lying down, it's not ultimately comfortable because you always have to move. Now, sometimes I can go 8, 9 hours without moving. But then nature calls and you're so comfortable and you don't want to get up, but you know you have to just because nature calls. And so you get up and you can never go back to sleep again because now you're thinking about all the stuff you did 12 years ago. So you just figure you'd stay up now. Get ready for that first nap. So we have these two forms of meditation, loving kindness meditation, postures of the body. We can do them any time of the day or night. We don't have to be in the temple or the meditation center. We just have to be. And we're all doing that right now. So the third part of all this is the crux of the matter. What did we learn from the 5 precepts? And what did we learn from the 4 postures? And what did we learn from our loving kindness meditation? And how is that going to enable me to end my suffering? Now, I told people in sort of a humorous way that I didn't suffer until I came to Buddhism. I just had a life, you know? And my life wasn't comfortable, but I thought that's just the way life was supposed to be. And I thought if I had another beer or maybe a better girlfriend, my life would be better. But it never got better. And the beer got more expensive. And then I came to Buddhism. And Buddhism says, you're suffering. And I said to myself, that's what it's called. It's called suffering. It's not just the way life is supposed to be. It's suffering because you are alive and human and have desire and craving and attachment and aversion. So now I knew what it was called, and I had an idea that if it's called something, maybe there's an answer to it. And then I found Buddhism, and Buddhism says, yes, we have the answer. You don't have to suffer if you don't want to. We have many ways you can practice that will enable you to end your suffering. And we call the end of suffering nirvana. Nirvana means you'll never have to suffer again. Wow. So people say, have you met anybody who's achieved nirvana? I say no. Everybody's suffering. But I'm thinking somebody out there probably has. How would you recognize them? I thought to myself. Well, you know, they wouldn't have cool shoes, you know, and they'd be really kind. Probably wouldn't even notice them because they wouldn't draw attention to themselves, you know? So I'm thinking there probably are some people out there, but they're not going to walk up to me and say, hey, I've achieved nirvana. Because I'm going to look at them and go, really? What else did you do? So what are the 3 characteristics of Buddhist wisdom that will give us a clue to our suffering and ultimately to the end of our suffering? Number 1, impermanence. Everything's impermanent, always changing all the time. No place to stand. You can't go back, you can't go forward, you just keep moving around in this ever-present moment that we find ourselves in. And once you find something that you really like, you went to that barber, you got a wonderful haircut, a couple years later you just lose your hair. You go, man. So that's what impermanence is, huh? You go, yeah, that's part of it. But like everything's impermanent, you know? You have a cat or a dog, 14 years maybe if you're lucky, then they die. Your best friend dies because they're 14 years old. When you were 14, you were still trying to figure out what it meant to be you. And this cat died because it got so old. So if we attach ourselves to anything, we're going to be disappointed. And if you find that man or woman that you've been looking for, and she satisfies your every need, one day she or he will be dead. And if they don't die first, you will. So don't get attached. Enjoy the moment, because you know the next moment it's going to be different. Don't hold on to it. Don't try to keep it. Don't try to make it yours. Just be happy that it showed up in the first place. Number 2, everything ultimately will cause you suffering. Everything. There's now one thing that will not cause you suffering ultimately. Now that's a real bummer, because some of the stuff in my life doesn't cause me suffering right now. I don't understand why it would cause me suffering, but then I factor in impermanence, and the very things I like about the stuff that's not causing me suffering will change, and that will cause me to suffer, and I'll be bummed out. And I'll have to say the Buddha was right. He warned me. He told me what to look out for, and I paid no attention. I became attached. I had desire, I had craving, I wanted that, you know, and I got it. A 2006 Suzuki car. That's what I wanted, that's all I wanted. They don't even make them anymore. I got to go to Pep Boys for parts, because nobody sells them anymore. All that love and desire and craving and attachment, wow, suffering. Sitting in Pep Boys, waiting for the part to come from Japan. Ay, ay, ay. So we got suffering, we got impermanence, and last but not least, we don't have us. We aren't who we think we are. We're always changing, we're always evolving into something else, and just when you think you figured yourself out, you change. And you go, oh man, I changed again. I didn't mind changing from smoker to non-smoker. That happened in 1978. I killed the smoker. I killed me, the me who smoked. I said, I'm going to have to let you go, man. You're not doing any good. You know? And he didn't want to go. It was difficult to let him go. But after a couple years, I buried him. We had a little memorial service, you know, pack of camels. It was okay. But then, you know, you start to gain weight. Oh, man, I don't want to be that guy. And then you start to lose weight. Oh, man, I don't want to be that guy. What guy do you want to be? I don't know. Just not that guy. And so you keep working on yourself. You go to the gym. You take probiotics. And you think, okay, this is going to be the best me ever. And the problem with being the best me ever is it took 70 years to get there, and now you have all the impermanence working against you. And you go, man, I can't even walk 2 miles anymore. I got to sit down and rest. You know, even with my probiotics, even with my exercise and my vitamins and eating right. When you get to a certain age, walking becomes the best exercise you can ever do. And yet it's so strenuous. And you feel so tired. And nobody sympathizes with you because they're running and you're just walking. So the person you want to be will never be that person. You'll never be who you think you should be because there is no one to be. It is just this process unfolding and manifesting moment by moment. And we call it things. We call it man or woman or George or Sally. We give it names and we sort of recognize it because there's some continuity to the process. But then if you haven't seen the person for 20 years, you go, whoa, what happened to you? And they go, 20 years, man, 20 years. So we're not going to be anybody we think we're going to be, should be, supposed to be, want to be. We're just going to process through this moment and hopefully make it into the next moment. But be happy something showed up. Someone showed up. Even if you don't recognize them, know who they are, they're there, and they're going to help you live as long as you can. And the longer you live, the more you wish you stayed young. But you can't. So you got to get old. And you have to walk more slowly. People open the door for you. You say thank you. You know, they give you oatmeal for lunch. You know, it's all good. It's all good. You're still around. Oatmeal tastes pretty good with a little brown sugar. It's okay. So there are things we can do every day, any place we find ourselves in, to practice having a better life. And for a Buddhist, having a better life is suffering less. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Lisa. So I brought my harmonica today. This is my big harmonica. My God. You know? See, the great thing about limitation is it forces you to be creative. So I wanted to get a small harmonica to see if I could do it. So let's see what happens. Blues in the key of G. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
It's just the end of suffering and you playing the blues.
There you go. What else would a Buddhist play?
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great.
give Kusala way more love, yeah? I am suffering so less right now. I'll tell you. So it's the prayer. Did you guys know what he was going to play?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Because I saw you guys watching him. I'm
Gave
like,
me a
what?
little heads up.
He gave you a little hint. Y'all were watching him. I thought, oh my God, how do they know what he's not playing or is playing? They got a little birdie. The blues. Okay, so it's healing prayer time, and as you know, we have the wonderful healing box, and there was a couple prayers in there this morning, so we're going to treasure them and certainly going to put them into prayer. And what I know is there's cards in your program, I believe, as well as outside. I'm going to leave this on that front table. So if you have something going on or you know somebody who has asked you to pray for them, please include this. And what the practitioners do is all week I'll email everybody tomorrow or tonight, and we will all be keeping all of you in prayer and your loved ones or whatever it is. So we have a little tradition here. Part of the tradition is, which I really, really like, is that in a moment before we begin the prayer, what I want you to do is think of people in your life perhaps that are suffering and that really have some stuff going on. Because this is the time we're going to actually verbalize their name. Because I think that when we put a name out, there's an energy that's very different than if we keep it in. So as we put somebody's name out, just think about for a moment in your life or your own life. Where's the, so to speak, the crimp in the hose for you or for others? So let's go ahead and put those folks into our energy, our common unity energy for healing and love. So go ahead and just yell them out.
Sean, Lisa,
Karen, Gus, Patricia, Priscilla, Ron, Gus. So what I am knowing right here and now is I am knowing that there is only one thing going on, and that is the pureness of the one mind. And what I know is every person that has been uttered into our space, whether it is here or whether it is Facebook Live, what I'm knowing right now is that those people truly are in their perfect place, because where they are, God is. And what I know that as where God is, that there is healing, there is wholeness, and everything and everybody is in perfect, whole, and complete. And also what I am knowing is that all of our loved ones know that they are loved, knowing that we are loving them, and knowing that the outcome is really none of our business. What is our business is knowing right here in this present that all is well. And whatever path people are on, we know that God is moving through them as the light to healing. So I'm knowing great health. I'm knowing great abundance. And I'm knowing that there is a complete ease and harmony within relationships. And that I am also knowing that everybody that is alive is breathing, whether it's assisted or on their own. And so I'm knowing that health is the name of the day. I am knowing that the oneness, the perfect whole and completeness of every single person that we have, including ourselves, is right now comforted in the arms of God. It's like having a blanket wrapped around them and completely feeling that oneness. So I simply place my words into the law of mind, knowing it's done, knowing it's complete, and knowing that it is. And together we affirm it by saying,